Look, I want you to think about something for a second. Right now, as you're watching this video, there's probably someone in your neighborhood, maybe your coworker, maybe someone you went to high school with, who makes roughly the same income you do. Same salary range, same city, same cost of living. But here's what's wild. 10 years from now, one of you is going to have a net worth of maybe $15,000, struggling paycheck to paycheck, while the other is sitting on $300,000 or more, basically financially free. Same starting point, completely different endings. And the crazy part, it's not luck, it's not inheritance, it's not some secret investment strategy. It's actually way simpler and way more predictable than you think. Because pretty much every adult in America falls into one of four distinct financial levels. And which level you're in right now is basically determining your entire financial future. My name is Donald, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people who make the same money end up in completely different financial situations. If you're someone who feels like you're working hard, making decent money, but somehow still not getting ahead financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. So here's what we're doing today. I'm going to break down the four financial levels that most adults fall into. And I'm not talking about income brackets, because honestly, your income is one of the least predictive factors of your actual wealth. I'm talking about behavioral levels, psychological levels, the actual systems and habits that determine whether you're building wealth or just treading water. And here's the thing that frustrates me. Most people think they're in a higher level than they actually are. They think, oh, I'm doing fine, I'm responsible with money. Meanwhile, they're exhibiting every single behavior of level 1 or level 2, wondering why they're not making progress. So we're going to fix that today. All right, level 1. I call this the consumption trap. And according to a 2023 study by the Federal Reserve, roughly 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. 37%. That's more than 1 in 3 adults. Now, here's what most people don't realize about level 1. It's not always about low income. I've seen people making $80,000, $90,000, even $100,000 a year who are firmly stuck in level 1, because level 1 isn't about what you make, it's about what you keep. The defining characteristic of level 1 is this: your spending perfectly matches or exceeds your income. Every single month, like clockwork, you get paid, the money comes in, and it goes right back out. Rent, car payment, student loans, groceries, subscriptions, going out to eat, that weekend trip, the new phone, the concert tickets. And look, I'm not judging any of these purchases individually, but when you add them all up, there's nothing left. Here's the math. Let's say you're making $5,000 a month after taxes. That's $60,000 a year, right around the median household income in the United States. And your expenses look something like this: rent or mortgage, $1,500, car payment and insurance, $600, student loans, $350, groceries, $500, utilities and phone, $250, subscriptions, streaming, gym, whatever, $100, gas, $200, going out, entertainment, shopping, $1,000, miscellaneous, $500. That's $5,000. Every penny gone. And here's where it gets really interesting. People in level 1 genuinely believe they can't save money. They'll tell you, I'm barely getting by as it is. But when you actually look at their spending, there's usually $500 to $1,000 a month that's going to non-essentials. It's just that those non-essentials feel essential because of something called lifestyle creep. Here's how lifestyle creep works. You get a raise, and instead of banking that extra money, you unconsciously inflate your lifestyle to match your new income. You upgrade your apartment. You finance a nicer car. You start eating out more. You're making more money, so you feel like you should be living better, right? The problem is, 5 years later, you're making 30% more than you used to, but you're not 1 penny wealthier. You're still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher income level. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about people who genuinely can't save? What about people with medical debt or who live in expensive cities? And look, I get it. There are absolutely people facing legitimate financial hardships. But here's the reality. If you're watching YouTube videos about personal finance You're probably not in that category. You probably have at least some discretionary spending that could be redirected. The psychological driver behind level 1 is what I call present bias. Your brain is wired to prioritize immediate pleasure over future security. That $50 dinner tonight feels more real, more tangible than $50 in a retirement account that you won't touch for 30 years. So your brain tricks you into thinking the dinner is the better choice, even though mathematically that $50 invested at 8% annual returns would be worth $503 in 30 years. One dinner, $503 in future wealth. But your brain doesn't naturally think that way. All right, level 2. This is what I call the safety net, and it's where a lot of people think they've made it financially. According to Bankrate's 2024 survey, only about 44% of Americans could cover a $1,000 emergency with their savings. So if you've got a few $1,000s in the bank, you're actually ahead of most people. But here's the thing. Level 2 is still not wealth building. It's just less precarious. The defining characteristic of level 2 is that you've created a buffer. You're spending less than you earn, usually by 5%, 15 cents, and you're accumulating some savings. Maybe you've got $5,000 in a savings account. Maybe you're contributing to your 401k to get the company match. You feel like you're being responsible. You're doing the right things. And you are. Don't get me wrong. Level 2 is infinitely better than level 1. But here's what frustrates me about level 2. People get comfortable here. They stop pushing. They think, I've got my emergency fund. I'm saving a little bit. I'm good. And then they wonder why 10 years later, their net worth is only $40,000 or $50,000. Let me show you the math. Let's say you're that same person making $5,000 a month, but now you've cut your spending to $4,500. You're saving $500 a month, 10% of your income. Over the course of a year, that's $6,000. Over 10 years, if you're just putting it in a high-yield savings account earning maybe 4% interest, you'd have around $73,000. That's not bad. But here's what most people don't realize. You're not actually building wealth. You're building safety. And there's a massive difference. Look, I'm going to be blunt. Savings accounts are wealth protection tools, not wealth building tools. When you factor in inflation, which has averaged about 3% over the long term, but has been higher recently, your 4% interest is only netting you about 1% in real returns. You're barely staying ahead of the devaluation of your money. The psychological driver behind level 2 is what I call security seeking. You've experienced the stress of level 1. Maybe you've had a car breakdown and couldn't afford to fix it, or you've had to put groceries on a credit card and it sucked. So now you're focused on never feeling that vulnerable again. You want a cushion. You want safety. And that's smart. But if you stop there, you're leaving so much on the table. Here's the other issue with level 2. People often have this false sense of progress. They see their savings account balance going up, and it feels like they're winning, but they're not thinking about opportunity cost. Every dollar sitting in a savings account earning 4% could be invested in an index fund, historically returning 10%. That gap, that 6% difference, is the gap between modest savings and actual wealth. Now, you might be thinking, but what about risk? What if the market crashes? And look, I get it. The stock market does go down sometimes. But here's the thing. Over any 20-year period in U.S. history, the stock market has never had negative returns. Never. Even if you invested right before the 2008 crash and just held, you'd be way up today. The real risk isn't market volatility. The real risk is playing it so safe that you guarantee yourself mediocre returns. Now we're getting somewhere. Level 3 is what I call the wealth builder, and this is where the math starts getting really, really interesting. The defining characteristic of level 3 is that you're not just saving, you're investing strategically. You understand the difference between accumulation and multiplication. You're not content with 4% returns. You're chasing 8, 10%, 12% by putting your money in assets that actually appreciate. Here's what this looks like. You're maxing out your 401k or IRA. You're investing in low-cost index funds. Maybe you're buying real estate or starting a side business. You're thinking in terms of decades, not months. You're asking yourself, how do I make my money work for me? And the numbers here are absolutely wild. Let's go back to our person making $5,000 a month. But now, instead of saving $500 a month in a savings account, they're investing $500 a month in a diversified index fund, averaging 10% annual returns. Here's what happens. After 10 years, $102,000. After 20 years, $379,000. After 30 years, $1.13 million. Same $500 a month. But now, because of compound growth, you're building actual wealth. And here's where it gets really interesting. The difference between level 2 and level 3 isn't effort. It's not sacrifice. It's not even money. It's knowledge and intentionality. The person in level 2 and the person in level 3 might be saving the exact same amount of money, but one is earning 4% and the other is earning 10%. And over time, that gap becomes enormous. According to a 2023 Vanguard study, the median 401k balance for people in their 60s is only about $87,000. That's not enough to retire on. But the people in the 90th percentile, they've got over $400,000. Same workplace, same access to retirement accounts, wildly different outcomes. And the primary difference isn't income, it's contribution rate and investment strategy. The psychological driver behind level 3 is what I call future orientation. You've made the mental shift from what can I enjoy today to what kind of life do I want in 10, 20, 30 years. You've realized that small sacrifices now create exponential benefits later. But here's the thing about level 3. It requires you to think differently about money. You have to stop seeing money as something to spend or save and start seeing it as a tool that generates more money. Every dollar you invest is like hiring a little employee who works for you 24/7 forever, generating returns. Now, level 3 is where most financially successful people land. You're building a solid nest egg, you're on track for a comfortable retirement, you're doing way better than most of your peers. But there's still one more level. Level 4. This is the system optimizer, and it's where things get almost unfair. The defining characteristic of level 4 is that you're not just building wealth through saving and investing. You're engineering your entire financial system to maximize wealth creation. You're thinking about tax optimization, you're leveraging debt strategically, you're creating multiple income streams, you're thinking about ways to increase your income, not just manage your expenses. And here's what most people don't realize. The gap between level 3 and level 4 is often way smaller than the gap between level 2 and level 3. Like the actual behavioral changes, not that dramatic, but the results, absolutely massive. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're in level 3, investing $500 a month, but now you make a few tweaks. First, you negotiate a raise or switch jobs and increase your income by $10,000 a year. That's about $700 a month after taxes. You invest that. Second, you open a Roth IRA and max it out. That's $7,000 a year, or about $583 a month. Third, you start a side hustle that brings in an extra $500 a month, and you invest that too. Now you're investing $1,783 a month instead of $500. And here's what that looks like over 30 years at 10% returns, about $4.1 million. $4 million from someone who started at a $60,000 salary. And before you say, but that's not realistic, let me stop you, because according to the IRS, there are over 10 million households in the United States with a net worth of over $1 million. These aren't all tech executives and professional athletes. Most of them are normal people who understood these principles and implemented them consistently over decades. The psychological driver behind level 4 is what I call system thinking. You don't just make good financial decisions. You build systems that make good financial decisions automatic. You automate your investments. You structure your life to minimize taxes legally. You surround yourself with people who think about money the way you do. You read, you learn, you optimize. And here's the thing. Level 4 isn't about being cheap or depriving yourself. It's about being intentional. People in level 4 often spend more on things they value than people in level 2 or 3. But they don't waste money on things they don't care about. They know exactly where every dollar is going and why. So here's the big question. How do you move from whatever level you're in to the next one? Here's the thing. You can't skip levels. Like if you're in level 1, you can't jump straight to level 4. You have to build the foundation first. If you're in level 1, your first job is simple. Create a gap between what you earn and what you spend. I don't care if it's $50 a month. Just prove to yourself that you can do it. Track your spending for 30 days, and I mean actually track it, every dollar. You'll be shocked at where your money is going. Then cut the stuff that doesn't matter and redirect it to savings. If you're in level 2, your job is to shift from safety to growth. Keep your emergency fund 3 to 6 months of expenses, but anything beyond that needs to be invested. Open a Roth IRA or start contributing more to your 401k. Learn about index funds. Understand that volatility is not the same as risk. If you're in level 3, your job is to increase your income and optimize your systems. That raise, that side hustle, that business idea you've been sitting on, stop thinking about it and start doing it. Look at your taxes and figure out where you're leaving money on the table. Max out your tax-advantaged accounts. And if you're in level 4, honestly, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. But if you are, your job is to teach others and pull people up with you. Look, here's what I want you to understand. Your financial level is not permanent. It's not determined by your income, your degree, or where you grew up. It's determined by your habits, your knowledge, and your willingness to delay gratification. The person making $50,000 a year, who's in level 3, is going to be wealthier than the person making $150,000 a year who's in level 1. Every single time. So figure out which level you're in, be brutally honest with yourself, and then commit to moving up. Because 10 years from now, you're either going to wish you started today, or you're going to be grateful that you did. If this video helped you, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let me know which level you're in and what you're going to do differently. And I'll see you in the next one.